What is your name and your position at the university?
My name is Rhea Yablon Kennedy, and I'm an instructor in the General Studies program at Gallaudette.
How long have you been working at Gallaudette?
I've been there almost 9 years.
What first got you interested in ASL or deaf culture prior to working at Gallaudette?
Well, I think the biggest reason that I became interested in deaf culture was because my younger sister is deaf. Mm-hmm. And so from a young age, I was learning sign language and, of course, became aware of the deaf community, and then also became aware of Gallaudette University. I went to a conference there in high school, and later in life just decided that I really wanted to work there and applied to a few jobs.
Are there any special methods you and other professors use in your teaching that may be different than the methods of professors at other universities?
Really, there isn't much difference. I mean, we instructors and teachers and professors at Gallaudette stand in front of the class and lecture sometimes have group discussions, just the same as at any university. I think the only difference is that we are instructing in sign language instead of spoken English.
Does it ever become difficult or uncomfortable when communicating with your students? And has there ever been a group of students or an individual student who has struggled to understand you in the classroom?
I'd say the only kinds of communication problems we have are similar to what any other human beings communicating might have, or an instructor-student relationship might encounter, where there might be a concept that's confusing. And at Gallaudette, I guess the only additional issue you might see is that, for me, I'm not a native signer. My first language is spoken English. And so even though I've been signing for a long time, sometimes my expressive skills or my receptive skills, understanding what students are signing, especially finger spelling, which can go really fast, that's sometimes a problem. But I just ask the students to repeat themselves, and often it turns out some of the other students in the class were also struggling to understand that student. So in general, I'd say the communication is very smooth.
What do you most enjoy about teaching at Gallaudette, and what appeals to you about the atmosphere of the university?
I think personally for me, teaching at Gallaudette is still very new. I was in a staff position in fundraising and then in the communications and public relations office. So it's very exciting now because I am at the heart of what goes on at Gallaudette, which is the teaching and learning. So that's what's exciting for me. And I think another exciting part about teaching is that Gallaudette has a very multimedia approach, encourages the use of video. So sometimes I'll ask students, instead of turning in a written essay, to make a video and hand it in that way. And to just play with the two languages we have going on. Which the two languages being ASL, American Sign Language, and spoken English or written English. Could I do that part again? The two languages we have going on being ASL, American Sign Language, and written English. So being in a bilingual classroom, I think, is very unique, and I really enjoy that and seeing where we can go with it.
Are students coming to Gallaudette for the most part able to communicate through ASL? And if not, how are you able to communicate with students who do not know ASL?
For the most part, yes, students are coming into Gallaudette knowing ASL. The vast majority of students are deaf or hard of hearing and have been signing from a young age. in school, often in their homes. And we sometimes do have students who are new signers. And so they may be deaf or hard of hearing, but they were raised speaking, raised in the oral method. But Gallaudette has a great new signers program. So those students would come in early in the summer, have about a month of really intensive ASL instruction, and then come into the classroom often ready to just participate like any other student. Sometimes there are new signers who also need a little bit more help. So for a semester or two, they might have interpreters in the classroom. And generally, that's how it works. And also, we have, I don't know if I'd say it's a problem, but maybe even a benefit that we have students coming in from all different regions of the country. So just as there are slightly different words for different things in spoken English, like some parts of the country people will call soft drinks pop, and in other parts of the country they'll call it soda. So in sign language, I mean, the sign will always be like this, but there are other words that are different, like birthday is like this in some areas and like this in other areas and like this in other areas. So it's really exciting to have people coming in with all different, I guess, accents, you could say. And that sometimes is a challenge, but most of the time is just really enriches the classroom experience.
Could you describe the curriculum and courses available at Gallaudette? What kinds of classes and extracurricular activities are available to students?
At Gallaudette University, we have an array of undergraduate, graduate, and PhD majors and concentrations. It's similar to other small colleges and universities around the country. There are about 40 undergraduate majors in, English, biology, sociology, subjects like that. Business is a very popular major. And then there are also advanced degrees at the master's and PhD level. And the curriculum for undergraduates includes the program I teach in, which is general studies. Those are like the core courses. It's about 40 credits out of, I believe, 112 credits students need to graduate. So there are the core courses, and then students can start moving into their major courses or kind of mix those during their freshman and sophomore years. And then after they declare their majors, they focus more on their major classes in their department. Most majors also include electives, so students can take related courses from other departments or just take courses that interest them. Also, I think about 80% of the majors require at least one internship. So that's an important part of the curriculum also, that students go out into the community and have a summer internship or a one-semester long internship that they go to in the evenings or during the days when they're not in class. Let's see. And then the graduate school has its own kind of curriculum, but I know most about the undergraduate.
Is there anything you'd like to learn more about regarding deaf culture or deaf education that your experiences at Gallaudette haven't exposed you to?
Oh, I just realized I didn't answer about extracurricular activities. Should I talk about
okay.
that? Okay.
That's all right.
I can go back to that at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would like to learn more about, I think one area that interests me a lot is ASL poetry. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm not a native signer, so it's not something that comes very easily to me. But then again, neither does spoken word or slam poetry or something. It's something I'd have to develop even in English, my first language. But just being able to tell a story and get more into the gestural part of sign language and using classifiers, it's something, it's kind of a unique linguistic aspect of ASL. That's something I'd like to know more about. And also just being in the classroom, I see there are so many interesting linguistic and social dynamics going on between people from different backgrounds. Like I said, there are people from different parts of the country, different educational backgrounds, students who were mainstreamed in a public school or around hearing peers, and students who went to an all-deaf residential school, all kind of communicating together. And I have some colleagues who have actually done PhD research, written their dissertations on linguistic dynamics and sociolinguistics. So that's something I'd like to know more about. You know, what is going through people's minds? How can I help facilitate communication and learning among people with so many different backgrounds? And also, how can we take advantage of those different experiences to just enrich everybody's learning and educational experience in the classroom?
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and thoughts with us. We hope that you continue to help Gallaudette University achieve its goals in education. Thank you very much. This is
I like Gallaudette because it's a deaf college. It's one of the only deaf colleges around here, and I'm really interested in a career that has to do with the deaf community, and it's a good school.
okay. What kinds of jobs do you plan to pursue in the future?
I would want to be a psychologist for the deaf or a translator.
Awesome. How and when did you decide to learn ASL, or do you know ASL?
I know moderate ASL. I started learning it last year.
What was the process like, and what was interesting about it to you prior to and after? You know?
Well, the process was simple. It's an easy way to communicate. It was pretty easy for me. And I found it interesting that there's different signs for different countries. It's not all the same signs. So we have American Sign Language and British Sign Language, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome.